Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to my talk for Dev Day. It's about compliance with Vanta, or subtitle, how to turn a grumpy developer into a fan. That grumpy developer is me, if you're wondering. So a bit about myself. So I'm Toby. I'm the head of development and co-founder of a company called Yasoon. We are actually a lesson marketplace vendor, platinum marketplace vendor. And we are basically focusing on integrating testing tools with Microsoft tools. So today, what do I want to talk about? Compliance. It sounds a bit boring, but let me tell you otherwise. So for me, personal story, so we did actually like an ISO certification, ISO27K. And for me, it was like in the beginning, a bit like React when getting to know it. So my first reaction when I learned about React was, oh, well, why do I need this stuff? This looks very, very ugly and complicated. And I basically had the same reaction for the ISO certification. But in the end, I basically turned around. So now I cannot imagine not having both of these things. So I had a very similar reaction. But let me start a bit earlier. What's a certification anyway? If you're not aware what this is, it's basically like an externally audited proof that your company is adhering to certain security standards, so some policies, and that you are basically have good operations and can do everything in a well-defined manner. So, and why it is necessary is basically that there are a lot of security issues out there, especially in the last few years. So customers are naturally interested that you are, basically following security protocols that are generally accepted and that they are basically, you do follow them. And the certification is basically someone externally, an auditor comes in and makes sure that you follow these, and they basically give you a certificate saying, yes, we have audited this company and we can give you proof that they are actually secure. A certification is basically, there are different standards that you can get certified for. There are more generic ones like the ISO one or SOC 2, which is a bit more well known in the Americas region. But there are also like domain specific ones like FedRAMP, which is a government certification when you want to deal with government customers, or HIPAA, which is more focused on the medical sector. If you have customers in medical sector, then that would be something that might make sense. In general, it's really broad customer acceptance in that regard. So you might have already, if you are a marketplace vendor, for example, or doing stuff, you might have had customers asking for a security certification or a security questionnaire. In general, if you have like SOC 2 or the ISO certification, that's usually broadly accepted by customers, and you can skip ahead in the customer security processes mostly. So why did we get certified actually? So there are actually a few reasons for us personally. Our app is basically accessing or basically connecting the Microsoft 365 tools with their testing tools, for example, Microsoft Teams. And as we basically have access to the testing data as well as the Microsoft data, customers are usually very security aware when it comes to giving us these permissions. So the security topic is always with most bigger customers for us, a topic we need to discuss with them. So having a certification made sense for us, just because it comes up so often for us. Also, what we do a bit differently than maybe other vendors, we have a shared offering with our data center apps. So as we are integrating with this Microsoft Cloud service, our data center apps basically are not running standalone on the customer instance, but are also connecting to our cloud services. So naturally, the data center customers are also very interested in what our security posture looks like, because on-premise customers are usually even more security aware than the cloud customers. The third, but not less important reason is that it gives us a competitive advantage, that this marketplace is growing pretty rapidly in the last few years. So there is competition And for us, having these certification is a big checkbox if you talk to customers, and you can really get an edge in the marketplace. So I want to also shortly talk about why did we go with the ISO certification and not with SOC 2. For us, we looked at our customer base, and as we are based in Germany, we have a very European Union and Germany focused customer base. At least I think half of our customers are from the European Union. So ISO was definitely one of the bigger asks, especially from the German customers, as this is the certification that's the most known to them. And on the other hand, when we talked to our American customers, it became clear to us that was our impression, that the ISO standard is also something that's widely accepted in the United States. SOC 2 might be a bit more preferred, but there was not, I mean, if we mentioned ISO, the American customers usually also were on board. SOC 2, as I mentioned earlier, is an alternative if you have like a more North American focused customer base in the North America, United States and Canada. We also know some other marketplace vendors that start with SOC 2 first. So yeah, it might depend on your customer base. And finally, why did we go with Vanta? So actually, we decided to go with a SaaS vendor in this certification space at all. Because we talked to a few other companies that are located in this region, and they did an ISO certification without the help of a SaaS vendor. They basically did it from scratch. And it was very, very painful for them. They had to invest a lot of time into getting certified. And so for us, it was very clear that we are a smaller company with only around 20 employees. We do not have the capacity to have someone or multiple people working on this more than a year. So yeah, we decided to definitely get us support from a tool. And when we researched this, Vanta basically stood out as the most prominent and first one. The most was probably the first player in this. As a developer, you would say it had the most stars on GitHub. So yeah, that was one reason. The next reason was the stack fit was very fitting. So the basic idea behind Vanta is that they have basically two big building blocks that help you get certified. The first one is they have a set of integrations where they do continuous monitoring of your stack. So for example, if you have AWS, they get an audit account, or you give them an audit account for your AWS account, and they are able to, for example, check all your instances for up-to-date software. They are able to check who has access, whether it's IAM, and yeah, make sure that you are actually have a well-configured AWS account. And they also have these kind of integration for most of our stack that we use. So they have this for Microsoft. They have this for our, we use GitHub for development. So that really fits great into this. And the benefit of this is when you integrate a lot of services with Vanta, you basically get free certification stuff where Vanta can prove to the auditor that you already satisfy a lot of things without you having actually done anything yet. So that really helps to get a head start in certification. The other part of Vanta is basically that they have a lot of policies pre-configured. So there are a lot of documents that are templates. You can adjust this to your company, but you don't need to start from scratch, which also really, really helps in improving this time until you get a certification. The last major benefit was for us that we haven't actually used yet, but if you want to have a second certification or even a third one, after you get your first certification, for example, we did ISO first and now probably going to do SOC 2 next. They will basically check all the things you already did for ISO and map this to the SOC 2 certification. So once you achieve the ISO certification, you're basically also like 70% already done for this 2 certifications. So there's really like a lot of overlap between the certifications, and using Vanta or SaaS tool helps you leverage these overlaps. All right, so I wanted to share a bit how the certification timeline looked for us, so that you get a bit of idea how long something like this can take. So our certification kickoff, we basically did in April of last year. And we had basically like my co-founder Andreas and the head of our business department, Anke, basically worked together in tandem on this. And the idea was that we have someone from IT and someone who knows like the business part of the company, so that there are no blockers and we get this solved really quickly. Then unfortunately, like some summer laziness hit, and we basically didn't start actually until August to really prioritize this topic. But then we decided, okay, we want to make sure we are certified for the Team 23 conference, which was in April this year. And then we basically worked through the whole autumn and winter to make sure we fulfill all the requirements, adjusted some IT processes and stuff like this. And then in January we had something that's called an internal audit. It wasn't really internal. We actually had like an external pre-audit, where you have like a dry run of an audit where someone comes in and checks everything and says, okay, there are still a few things where you need to improve to make sure you actually pass the final audit. And then we had like a few minor tasks to open, and then between February and March, the actual certification took place, and then end of March we actually were certified. Now I want to give you a quick demo of Vanta itself. I'll show you a bit like the different components that Vanta came up with. So let me just go into Vanta itself. So when you start with Vanta, you basically have like this dashboard where it shows you your different progresses for the different certifications. You will notice that we are actually like for the ISO certification only at 94% now. But this is just because Vanta is basically like monitoring your all the systems every day. There are new requirements coming into play that they are adding all the time. So this will really not be at 100% all the time, but it will just probably a few percents go up and down throughout the year. The idea behind it that you can then quickly fix it and get back to your good security posture. So basically, what I mentioned earlier are these Vanta automated continuous checks, where you can see, for example, there have been some vulnerabilities identified in our GitHub packages. This comes from the GitHub integration. And you can see that there's also an SLA behind this. So we have until July the 1st. I think it's like this probably came in like a few days ago. We have until July 1st to remediate these. And what I can do is I can dive into this and then see, okay, there's apparently like a new vulnerability discovered in the Spring framework. And now I can easily create a Jira issue, for example, here and say, hey, my dearest Java developer, could you please make sure to update the Spring framework dependency? So yeah, that really helps like to bring very good transparency to all these things. And that's one of the benefits of Vanta. So the second thing is basically the documents part. This is a place where Vanta does not have automated checks yet. So for example, you have like a document which is necessary that for the proof of immediate disposal. So for example, if you offboard an employee and you want to ensure that the laptop is wiped correctly and can be reused by another person. So Vanta cannot check this automatically. So what you're going to have to do to get certified is basically to document this somewhere like in a conference page or like in a PDF file. Make sure this is signed, and then you can upload this proof here. And then the auditor, when doing the actual certification, can look at this proof and say, okay, you have documented this correctly, and you're apparently doing this process. So the last big part basically of certification, and it's actually like a core part of certification, are the policies. The policies are basically short documents or long documents, depending on how you want to do this, describing what your, for example, your employees, what rules and regulations you have to adhere to. So the most simple one would be like, for example, a code of conduct, which is for your employees to read and stand by. And again, for example, these are actually the ones where Vanta comes with a lot of templates. So you don't need to, like, I mean, the code of conduct is probably more easy to write, to be honest, but there are other policies that are a bit more complicated. But Vanta comes with templates for these, and you can just basically adjust the templates to your company, what works. You can remove a few things and even add a few things that match how you do things in your company. Yeah, so this is how Vanta looks and how it helps us. So what improvements did we actually do through getting certified? I want to talk about this real quick. So due to having Vanta monitor our infrastructure, we actually got a few things that we know we needed to do better already, but now we actually had like a very good time to do them actually. So we do introduce some better monitoring for our AWS resources. We did some more logging and alerting, for example, like your data is running out of space or your EC2 instances are too slow to respond. So it really helped us to get an overview of what already has some alerting and where we needed to do. Yeah. The second part was that we introduced something that's called GitHub Advanced Security. This is actually something like an additional license from GitHub. It works a lot like, for example, SNCC, where GitHub scans your dependencies, scans your code for common security issues and patterns, and reports them back to Vanta. So you really have this very well integrated with now. And the large big part which we did was basically we introduced something called Microsoft Intune, which is then mobile device management, where we basically register all the company hardware of the employees, and we were able to see like, do they have a password manager installed correctly? Is the system software up to date and stuff like this? And this is also integrated very deeply with Vanta, and then you can basically see where something is missing or where we need to do something more. This is actually like a quick screenshot of the MDM we use. This is from Microsoft. The great thing about this is actually like it actually helps us to nag our employees even less. So the good thing is when there are new security updates for some zero-day problems, everything is done automatic way. So we don't need to run around and asking employees, did you already update your device? There's a new security issue. But this is really handled automatically. And there are even some neat things like we can roll out some configurations like configure a global quiet mode where we say, okay, like we don't want any employee to get any work-related notifications after a certain time, for example. So you can do all of this via the MDM, which is quite nice for us. And you also get some very advanced alerting. For example, if someone clicks on a phishing link, and you can quickly take action on all these kinds of things. Our impression after this was actually like, wow, okay, this MDM is actually useful. It sounded very, very boring in the first place, but for us, we actually had like lots and lots of benefits, especially as a small company where we do not have like a dedicated IT department running around and servicing the hardware. We actually did a lot of access reviews where we found some older accounts that were not used anymore, and we found some just like older accounts that we could retire. And we also like found a few AWS instances that were not used anymore, which we were able to retire and even save some money because they were just unused and just idling around, which is not really great. But through the new monitoring, we actually were able to realize this. So for us, the benefits is really like our operations, I think, improved a lot when we did this certification. So I think we are more secure than before. I think we have better quality because we have now this GitHub security scanning and stuff like this. The great thing is also like there's a lot of stuff you should be doing. Like there are some best practices regarding testing your backups and the like. But now the certification actually made us do these things regularly because we need to document this. Which just helps like sticking the finger into the wound and saying, okay, you really need to do backup testing. Please do this now. In the end, we actually sleep better now because we know that we have less blinds in our organization. Now, the biggest question, should you do it? And as a good senior engineer, I can tell you it depends. You need to really like look at your app and your business and see if you are mature enough that this makes sense. So if you're just starting off, this might not be the best time investment, to be honest, and money investment. And if you are not like accessing very sensitive data, for example, if you're on your Forge app, it might really not make sense to start with this immediately. Also, the price might seem steep at first for a SaaS service that helps with certification. To be honest, but if you decide to do a certification, I wouldn't really recommend doing it any other way, because every day, basically, we worked on the certification. We went like, okay, we are not going to do this without Vanta, even though it might seem expensive at first, but it saves you so much money and trouble that it's definitely something I would recommend any day. The last thing would probably be know your audience. So before you start, maybe check your marketplace reports, see where your main customers are located. Also, maybe check your support channels, what customers are asking about regarding security. So so if you want to decide if you should go with ISO or SOC 2 first. That's it. I hope you had a good impression of what a certification with Vanta could look like. Check our Shiny Trust page. That's actually something that Vanta also provides when you're finally done with certification. So customers can visit these and get an overview of all the measures you're taking. I hope that made sense, and have a good rest of that day.